cars for 1941. New beauty, new accomplishments, new everything. The ultimate in magnificence for his royal personage, the American car buyer. Creations that seem unsurpassable in their appointments. Engines of seemingly matchless performance and efficiency. Automobiles that apparently leave nothing to be desired. Motor cars of which one might almost say, here, ladies and gentlemen, is the car of perfection. Imagination cannot design nor build anything finer. Here is the complete and final triumph of engineering skill. Upon this achievement, we rest our laurels. Well, nothing could be farther from the truth. These manufacturers haven't even started. You don't believe that? Well, in a way, it's understandable. These cars look like the last word. But let's take a look at the first auto show back in 1901. Maybe you don't think there were plenty of oohs and ahs from the populace when they first laid eyes on these horseless buggies. Maybe they look like assorted coffee grinders now, but around the turn of the century, they had the good citizens pop-eyed from amazement. And they really ran. Of course, sometimes they ran more up and down than forward, but they got around. The scene you are witnessing was away back in BTL, before traffic laws, and was taken in San Francisco one otherwise quiet Sunday afternoon. The careening just Sunday driver. A historic occasion, this. Speaking of the Easter parade, and I don't recall the subject being mentioned, here is one of the earliest ones in which the auto started to replace the horse, an event of much provocative discussion. The bicycles, too, did not lack for sympathizers who utterly scorned the new mode of transportation. The scorchers who pedaled at breakneck speed through village and farm, and the more sedate devotees of sprocket and wheel, who were so decorative a feature of the gay 90s, resented the intrusion of this roaring monster of the highway. Get a horse, cried the bicyclists. And if the truth be known, many an old Dobbin must have said to himself, get a bike. Ah, happy memory. Just a few twists of the crank, and there we are. All ready now, off we go. Oh, well, there are times when it doesn't work. Rome wasn't built in a day. Well, there we are. All ready now. Off we go. And the weatherman said no rain. You see, this proves that the weatherman wasn't right even in those days. Oh, well, this won't take long. We'll have the top up in a jiffy. All right now. Here we go. All together. Motorists in the olden days got plenty of frigid air. Maybe that's why they were a hardier lot than their pampered closed-car descendants. Ah, those were the days when men were men and women wore the darndest get-up you ever saw. Torpid livers were unknown. There was no such thing as that sluggish feeling. Vibration was the keynote to health. You just wind it up, sit back, and vibrate. It was wonderful. Hi-ho for the open road. And wasn't the road open in those days? Sometimes it would open up right down to the hubcap. And the passengers. What poise, what verve, what insouciance, what elan, whatever became of the Stanley Steamer? If there was one outstanding characteristic of the early motorist, it was enthusiasm for his car. Everyone had complete faith that his motor could outdo anything else. Oh, if you don't mind, sir. Ah, thank you very much. Yes, as I said, everyone had complete faith that his motor could outdo anything else on the market. A good-natured rivalry that led to such famous endurance contests as the Glidden Tour. This highlight of the automotive season attracted as participants many of the leading personalities of the day, each vying for the annual trophy awarded to the winner. Points were scored for performance and checked at the end of each day's run. In many ways, the high efficiency was remarkable, and not a few people thought the auto had reached the limits of its capabilities. So shrewd and astute a person as Andrew Carnegie, the most celebrated financier of his day, said of this 1905 Winton, "We are greatly pleased with our new Winton. From the very start, it has done its work and never failed us. There may be improvements yet to come, even in such autos, but it is difficult to see much room for them." Well, this never happened before. It usually goes up just like that. Well, almost like that. Here is a flood of recollections from out of the past. Honored veterans of fond memory. How many can you recall? And the old-time ads. Do you remember? What about this one? What I can't understand is what they did when it rained. Oh, I catch on. Say, that's good. As you see, the automobiles got better, and the ladies' hats vice versa. That little number on the right was the inspiration for Fisher Turret Top. And as Aunt Minnie said, leather tires. Well, for land's sakes, Jonathan, what won't they be thinking of next? Now, this ad isn't amusing. It's the honest belief of one of the earliest car builders that the ultimate in perfection had been reached. But Mr. Olds was wrong, as will be anyone who limits the attainments of human ingenuity. The old familiar scenes remained, but they were marked with a new tempo, a new excitement. A vast industrial force was beginning to throb and vitalize the nation. New forms of production were bringing the automobile within reach of the many. Each new season heralded startling innovations. The motor car had come a long way in 1916 from the days of the Vanderbilt Cup race. This historic road race, first run on October 8, 1904, brought together the famous racing drivers of the world. Winding its way through Long Island towns and villages, the course was a challenge to the courage and stamina of the contestants. These early races were the proving ground that demonstrated the strength or corresponding weakness of body stress and engine capabilities. They aided immeasurably in determining the future of automobile construction. We owe much to these daredevils who played so important a part in the history of automotive transportation. They were the men who, well, for heaven's sake, pressed the button on the dashboard. Well, it's been fun looking back at the old days, laughing at the gawky adolescence of the automobile. Yes, maybe it was gawky, but it was splendid, too. Out of the blind fumblings, the tragic errors, and the heroic dreams of the first car builders came the present-day automobile. These emblems are signposts, pointing back to those honored pioneers who toiled so valiantly to bring the auto into being. Inventors some who worked in blacksmith and machine shops, businessmen others who risked their meager capital in what must have seemed a doubtful speculation. Some succeeded, some failed, but to all must go the salute of America for their courage and enterprise. They hadn't much to start with, but they persevered. Mistakes were made, setbacks occurred, fortunes were swept away, but always new fortunes and new fighters took up the struggle. As surely as the explorers of history left their mark on civilization, so too have these pioneers of the auto industry. Theirs was the thrill of competition, the excitement of a gamble, the vision of perfection. From their mixture of small boy tricks and soaring dreams will come tomorrow's automobile, as beautiful as a painting, as efficient as science itself. What of the future? The horizon of engineering skill and design is unlimited. Imagination and creative genius have no bounds. There are no frontiers to accomplishment. With the courageous precepts of the pioneers as their beacon, the industry will press ever onward to new glories and new achievements. Hey, on the dashboard there's a button. You push the button and the top comes up. Oh, well, if you want to do it your way. 35 years it takes him to find that button, and now he won't listen to me. Oh, well.
The merry Oldsmobile may be a thing of the past to a lot of folks, but not to the Horseless Carriage Club of Hollywood. To belong, your car has to be a real old-timer, like this 1913 Mercer Raceabout. We're off to the annual picnic, 23 Skidoo. Yes, and a 10-2-4 to you. Here's to the good old days with a car that's 35 and a drink that's more than 60 years old.
Tick, tick, tock, 10 o'clock.
Tick, tick, tock, 2 o'clock.
Tick, tick, tock, 4 o'clock. Look at the clock and get a cold hot when you're hungry, thirsty, or
What's the make of this car? 1910 Ford. Ford, 1910. That's the only one on the West Coast. Wow, that's an old number. Thank you very much. Pardon me, sir. Oh, you stop here? What's the year of your Ford? 1910. 1910? That's right. Behaves all right? Runs fine. Oh, that's good. No trouble at all. Well, we've had a great picnic today, haven't we? We certainly have. Had a fine time. I'll get roasted to kill his...
Order when he gets here if you want to interview him, because this is the prize of the whole. What is the car, Buick?
1908 Buick, White Street, Model 10.
1908 Buick. Well, it sounds good. Hope you get home with it.
What have you got there, a Maxwell?
Yeah.
What year?
1910.
1910. Well, good. I hope you get home with it. Well, you've got a beautiful job here.
Thank you, Mr. Bergen.
Well, what's the make of this car?
This is a 1913 Mercer Raceabout.
13 Raceabout.
That's right, Mercer.
Mercer. Well,
Yes, sir.
sounds like it's hitting on all two, or rather four.
There's 4 of them.
4 of them. And a whistle.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Roll it. What have you got there?
Stanley Steamer.
Stanley Steamer. What year?
21.
21. Well, I hope you don't have a blowout. What year is this?
1919.
1919. See, it runs beautifully.
Oh, not a noise or sound.
Yeah.
How's your Stanley?
My Stanley broke down this afternoon.
sure can pick 'em. But how long are we going to have to wait for George?
He just said to wait until he came. Well, I'm starved.
Who isn't? He said lunch, not a midnight snack. Anyway, why should it take so long to accept a job? You just walk in, say, yes, sir, I'll take it.
What job is George going to take, then? I don't know.
You mean he didn't tell you?
Uh-uh.
I don't get the big mystery.
Maybe he's got something sensational, wants to surprise us.
Could be. You know, that character could have his choice of almost any. I introduced him to Mr. Harrison at the bank. Mr. Harrison liked him.
I can understand.
You can understand what?
Hi.
She can understand you kept us gnawing at the bit for half an hour.
I'm sorry. I got to talking and...
Well?
Well, let's order first, huh?
Order? Look. You called us together like the last page of a paper-bound murder mystery, so now give.
George, please.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to work for Mr. Sloan.
In a gas station?
No, it's not a gas station. It's a service station.
Well, I guess if this is what you want, there must be something to it.
Oh, there is, Beth. Well, there's plenty to it. At least for me.
I don't get it. You made such a thing looking around for a job. You took such a long time making up your mind.
Well, I wanted to be sure.
How do you know until you try?
Now, look, Dick, you choose a bank, okay? Maybe you'll try it and you'll find out it's right for you. But, well, I didn't know, and I didn't want to spend 10 years finding out I might be wrong. I wanted to find out now, and, well, look, here's what I did. Well, you see, I'm like most guys. I'm wondering all the time where I'm going, you know? Well, I got to thinking, and I suddenly figured that the first thing I should do is find out about myself. So I made up a kind of checklist. I knew what I liked. I liked people, cars, and variety, outside. Well, if I could help it, I knew I didn't want a routine-type job. I don't know, when I began to think about it more, I felt I wanted a job where I could stand on my own 2 feet. I never knew what I wanted before, and I'd never even thought about what I had to bring to a job, what I had to offer. You know, school, training, experience, brains and personality, physical ability, things like that. Well, I started wondering what kind of a job I'd be a success at, and well, what kind of things I would need from a job to be satisfied. Well, look, I made up a kind of list.
Independence, initiative, variety.
Independence? It sounds like the 4th of July.
Oh, stop. George must have had some reason for writing it. Didn't you, George?
Oh, sure. Well, first, I wanted a job to give me some chance to think for myself. And I didn't want it to follow too many routines. Well, I wanted the challenge that came when you had to work things out on the spot.
Okay, Professor. Next chapter. Type of work. Outside with people.
Well, I like people. I like meeting them. Besides, I wanted to work outside, too. I realized I like to get some physical kick out of the work I do. Well, I feel better that way. I'm more my own guy. I wrote down income next because, well, I think it's important for a guy to have some idea of where the job will start and just how far it's going. Last, well, I wanted a job to be steady. A job I could grow with. A job that would let me learn so that maybe someday I could have my own business.
You like it outside. I'm more the indoors type.
Well, I think it's important for a guy to have some idea, if he can get a raise within a reasonable length of time. Well, just how far he can go in the business.
Springboard to my own business. What about that?
Oh, don't you want your own business?
Yeah. No. I don't know yet.
I guess everybody's different.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Well, for me, I had to find something that would satisfy all these things on my checklist.
So
I looked around at what was available. But first, I decided I'd have to have some way of measuring each job I looked at in terms of me. So I made up a scorecard. I made up a system with a top of 10 points for each section, based strictly on what it meant to me. When I was going to score each section, 3, 5, 8, 9, 10, score each job I saw, depending on how many things it satisfied on my checklist. Then I went out to look over the town.
Well, I like it here, George.
Bank's a pretty secure place to work, you know. Yes, sir. Well, could you tell me how long you've been here, Mr. Harrison?
Well, let's see. Including time out for the Navy, I guess it was about 7 years. Started behind a window, worked my way up. Takes time, George, like everything else.
Well, I suppose there's a kind of a routine working in a bank.
Sure, there is, but you get used to it. Me, I like routine. And you've got to have a carefully planned routine in order to take care of other people's money. They trust you with it. There's a responsibility, George, in working for a bank.
When you're out looking for your future, you got to do a lot of listening and a lot of adding up. Well, I figured a bank was too much of a routine thing. So to me, this was worth about 4 points. Bank was inside, I wanted outside. Well, starting salary was as good as any place in town. Could get raises, not too fast, but they were there. Security? Well, sure. But it wouldn't give me much of a springboard to my own business. You could advance, you could get training. And there was a future way out in front of you. But it missed in only one spot for me, so I rated it another 8. Then I went over to the factory, talked to the personnel manager, filled out forms, took a good hard look at what my future might be there. Judgment, sure. Well, I guess so with the new machines you've got to work with. People, well, you got to work with them, get along, but, well, that's not the kick I wanted with people. Well, the factory was certainly no springboard to my own business. I couldn't see my future there too well. So I rated the factory 2, 4, 7, and 3. I talked to a lot of people and a lot of stores, too. It's a chance to think for yourself when you sell. It's a lot of variety. It's a challenge. So I gave it a 10. But the work was inside again. There was no physical satisfaction. You could meet people, sure, and help them solve their problems. A 5. I gave it a 4 here because the salary's not too bad to start, and you could get raises or commissions. Now, the work in a store is steady. It could act as a springboard to my own business, and there's not a bad future there. I've scored an 8 with you. So don't tell me. Obviously, the service station scored highest for you. But I don't get it. A service station's a service station. It's just a job, George. No. For me, it's the best job. Oh, come on. All right. How do you think of a service station? It's dirty. You get full of grease and oil. It gets in your hair. Okay. Sure. It's dirty. It's tough. And you work long hours. But it's important. I'd been looking at this place all my life. Well, I'd never really seen it before because I'd never looked at it before in terms of myself, of my future. You know, it's a pretty solid part of everybody's life. That's why it's important. To me, this means there's security in it. It's a business, sure, but it's necessary to the people in town and the community.
Come on in, George. Well, now, like I said outside, you take this application form home, and here it is. And you look it over, and then if you want it, you fill it out and bring it back.
Sure, Mr. Sloan.
Well, what's the matter? You surprised that I run my station like a business? Huh? If I got it nowadays, it would fall flat on my face.
I guess so.
Sit down, George, sit down. Tell me, what do you know about a service station?
Oh, sells gasoline, oil, tires, service cars.
Mm-hmm. What do you see when you drive into a station? What do you think the guys do?
They clean the windshield, they check the oil, pump gas.
Mm-hmm. Look at the battery, check the water. That about does it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Service and selling with a smile, huh?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's what people see, all right. But, George, did you ever notice a little thing the service station guy does? The way he digs around getting his hands dirty so he can keep this car running? The way he keeps his fingertips all tuned up and his eyes and his ears so he can spot trouble, rough spots. So he can make the most expensive item that people own run better. work better, give them more enjoyment. You ever think about that?
Oh, I guess those are the things you don't much think about.
Yeah, those and a few dozen other things that make the service station business tick. Like bookkeeping and housekeeping, selling. You ever do much selling, George?
Well, I worked a couple of summers at Hanson's. Now, I like people. I like talking to them, you know?
Sure. Gives you a good feeling. Happens every day, right outside, right there. Tell me, George, did you work long hours at Hanson's, this grocery store?
Well, regular hours, I guess. Days, you know, 9 to 5.
You mind long hours, George?
Not if I like what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Mind getting your hands dirty?
I never thought about it before.
Yeah. Well, George, I think there's a few things you ought to know about the service station business. Come on, you follow me and I'll take you out.
He showed me all right. He gave me the $10 tour with no soft soaping. Well, the job's not easy and you get dirty, but, well, as Sloan pointed out, it's, well, you make a car run better, or you fix something that maybe saves somebody's life. Well, you get your hands into something here, and you feel good at night when you go home because you're working all the time with a valuable piece of another person's property. And you've got to know all about it, the way a doctor knows about the insides of a person's body. The doctor gets his hands dirty, too. There's a kind of a creative part of the service station business I never thought about before because, well, you have to learn to feel and smell and hear trouble before it starts. Your knowledge is always changing. Your mind's always jumping and growing because the models change and improve every year. And he didn't kid me about the routine things. They're there, too, just like they were in every place I'd looked, every single job. Well, this wasn't a job for anybody who was afraid of a little tough, dirty work. He had a lot of pride in what he sold, too. He felt that gasoline is one of today's biggest bargains. He said that the companies are always improving it, so it's 50% better now than it was 30 years or so ago, and the price is almost the same, too, except for what taxes have added. But it wasn't until I watched him work with people, with his customers, that I began to get a feeling of what the service station business added up to for him. Here was a guy who was happy inside. You could see it, the way he greeted people, smiled and talked. Well, people thought something of him. Boy, I saw that people were important in this job. You knowing them, liking them, meeting them on a good professional basis. I don't know, you use your knowledge, your brains, to be alert, to find trouble, to prevent it. It's important. And you're outside. You're figuring things out for yourself. You're standing on your own 2 feet. Just watching this guy and his job, I began to get a little excited. This man, working in his service station with all his knowledge, his attitude, well, this man was just as professional as a doctor or a lawyer or a ball player or anybody else. I'd certainly be thinking for myself on this job. Be a lot of variety, too. It's outside, working with your hands and people. Well, I'd seen it with Sloan. But along with what I liked, there was the dirt and the tough work, so... income. Well, he told me the starting wage, and it was up there with the top ones in town. Getting raises depended on how I improved, but Sloan told me he liked to give them. Well, I did what I did with the other jobs. Security? I didn't know. To the average person, a service station doesn't seem to have any future. Well, I filled out my application anyway. And up to this point, I was interested, but I wasn't sure.
Well, I need somebody, George, but I want to look this over a little more carefully, and then I suppose you want to think about it some more, too.
Yes, I would.
I was looking for a good man at service station, George. Men who are going to be steady, solid. I don't want you to think it's going to be easy.
Oh, I know, Mr. Sloan.
Okay.
Now, if you don't mind, well, I'd like to ask you one or two questions.
Oh, sure, George. Go ahead, shoot.
Well, I've got to think about my future. Not tomorrow or next week or even next year, but...
Sure, George. I know. I was your age. There were certain things I wanted out of a job. Certain things I felt good doing. So I went to work for somebody else, like you're going to do. I went to work in a service station. Well, I met a lot of people, watched them come and go. Learned, studied, worked hard while doing it. Didn't think anybody was watching me. Well, sir, one day, a couple of years later, a man named Mr. Jurgens, a man from the oil company who supplied our products, came to see me. And he said, Bob, we're going to open up a new station. How would you like to take it over? Well, sir, I thought he was kidding, you know. I mean, where would I get enough money to buy my own station?
I suppose you could borrow it from a bank, couldn't you?
Well, I needed a little more than I had then, or what I could have borrowed. But the oil company backed me up, and here I've been ever since. Got a nice house, home, family. Of course, there were a lot of things I didn't know when I was working as an attendant. A lot of things that I had to learn to know how to run my own business. I had to learn about taxes and credit. They were whole new things to me. I had to learn how to get people to come into my station, how to merchandise. And then, as a businessman, I found that I had certain responsibilities to the community. I had to be a good business citizen. So I had to learn about public relations. And then I had to set up my books, organize my business in a professional way.
Hey, where do you learn all that?
A lot depends on yourself, of course. But the oil company backs you up there, too. They give courses. They teach you business management, how to be a good supervisor. You kind of learn while you work. You grow with the job and with the people in the business community and the clubs you join.
Well, that makes sense to me, but doesn't...
Oh, sure, George. What I'm talking about applies to any business. But the important thing is that here, right here, I'm doing all these things myself, for myself. And I got to know them all myself, too, not just a part of it. You ask about a future. Well, I don't know about you, but I got one. A lot of other people get it with a service station, too. You grow with it. You grow into it. You grow as big as you want to get and as fast as you want to go.
Well, there it was. When I added up all the scores, the service station came out on top. For me, it was the greatest. It satisfied practically everything I wanted from a job.
Sure, for you, fine, great. For me, But don't worry, in 20 years, I'll have my chauffeur bring all my cars to you. Let you take care of all of them.
For some reason, I feel real proud, and I haven't done anything.
Hey, since your boyfriend's going to be so successful, what say he buys lunch for all?
Oh, sure.
Oh, no, I'll treat.
Now, wait a minute, Beth.
Oh, no, I'll buy lunch. I want to. George has got to start saving for his own service station. Don't you?
Story of Fred Strong, a normal, happy man who usually enjoys life. He's someone you know, perhaps someone like yourself. But suddenly, without warning, Fred comes face to face with one of life's problems, a new one for him. The high-powered chairman of the local luncheon club asks him to speak at a club meeting. Who, me? Asks Fred. Oh, no, I'm not much of a speech maker. But the club man is persistent. Sure you can do it, he says. We want to hear all about your trip to Alaska. Fred's protests are to no avail. We'll count on you for next Thursday, says the club man. And he's gone. Fred, whether he likes it or not, is committed to make a speech. Fred's trapped. He feels as if he'd just agreed to make a parachute jump or ride a rocket to the moon. And this is just the beginning. For Fred is on his way to all the terror, all the worry, all the pain of an ailment commonly known as stage fright. As time passes and Thursday approaches, Fred will be jolted from his reading by the awful recollection that the day is near. His deepest slumbers may be interrupted by the harrowing thought of what's to come. And even food is hard to force into a stomach that feels as if it were loaded with hot bricks. Yes, sir, Freddie is scared, just plain scared. And on the day of the speech, he's really a sight. The Toastmaster gives a glowing account of Fred's experience as a traveler and of his upstanding qualities as a man. He mentions how Fred is considered a leader of the community and how proud he is to introduce him. But look at Fred. He's not even sure he can stand up, let alone walk to the rostrum. He's trembling and weak in every joint. His feet are cold. His hands are hot and shaky. And Fred wishes he were someplace else. Diagnosis? Stage fright. Yes, and Fred's ailment is common to you. To you. And to you. Yes, you've all had stage fright, and you know how bad it can be. But what can you do about it? First, you must recognize stage fright for what it is. Stage fright is fear. And what are you afraid of? Are you afraid someone in your audience will stand up and take a pot shot at you? Are you afraid there'll be a snake on the stage? Or that you will fall off the platform? No, you're afraid of what people will say and think about you as you stand before them. You're afraid of their ridicule. You're afraid they'll see your faults and your shortcomings. Because the thing you're really afraid of is yourself. You're afraid of faults that are products of your imagination. When you get up to speak, will you say the right thing, the thing you mean to say? Will you make grammatical errors? Will you mispronounce words? Will you look all right to your audience? Will you forget? Will you be able to speak at all? Let's see what can be done to help you conquer stage fright. We'll go back to Fred at the time he was notified that he would speak on Thursday. The minute Fred found he was elected to speak, he became a little frightened, a perfectly natural reaction. So Fred should have begun to say to himself, well, they want me to speak at the luncheon club. Quite an honor. They must think I'm really somebody. Fred is building up his... Next, Fred carefully plans his speech so that when Thursday comes, he'll be absolutely certain of what he will say to the luncheon club. He writes down his ideas. He's laying the stepping stones of his talk by using facts, examples, stories, illustrations, reasons, and conclusions that will make up his speech. By putting it down in black and white, Fred is sure he has something important to say. He knows where he is going. When the essential points of his speech have been outlined, Fred may try it out, just to be sure. He imagines he's in front of the luncheon club and is making his opening remarks. Again, he assures himself that he is confident and that the members of the club want him to speak. By practicing his speech, he is taking an important step that will help him control stage fright. Appearance. Fred decides exactly what he will wear the day he speaks. Perhaps Fred's not the best speaker in the world, but he certainly won't leave himself open to ridicule because of the way he looks. Good appearance is most important in making a good speech because your audience will judge you partly on your appearance. If you know you look good to your audience, you will feel good, another help in controlling your fear. Even such a small thing as wearing your favorite tie can have an effect on your mental attitude, and so on your speech. So you see, in preparing himself for the speech, Fred has accomplished the one thing that will help him most in controlling stage fright and mastering his fear. He has built up his self-confidence. He has done this by convincing himself that he's to be the honored guest at the luncheon club, that by his achievements he has earned the right to speak. He has planned his speech and practiced it so he knows exactly what he will say. And finally, he has made sure of his personal appearance. Now let's see what happens at the luncheon club this time. Again, the chairman of the club describes Fred's exploits in the Alaskan wilds and welcomes Fred to the group. This time, the words of praise do not fall on deaf ears. Fred is prepared and confident. The fear that Fred experiences now is good because he has control of it. It's nature's way of keeping the body and mind sharp and alert. Yes, Fred is alert. And instead of a growing fear, he's ready and eager to get into his speech. The introduction completed, Fred walks to the speaker's position with confidence. And although his legs may be a little shaky, he starts his talk with the same forceful words he planned in his office. He speaks with a full, strong voice and stands straight and tall. Fred's smart enough to know that his talk will not interest everyone, so he picks out the sympathetic faces in his audience and talks to them. He picks out the friendly faces and pays no attention to the unfriendly ones. Fred is determined not to let little mistakes bother him. Now he's lost his place. Is his audience uncomfortable and embarrassed for him? Not in the least. He has made them see the humor in the situation. They're on his side. As Fred continues speaking, he thinks of what he says, not how he says it. And so, in making a good speech, Fred has raised himself in the estimation of his friends and neighbors. More than that, he has raised himself in his own estimation. He feels more qualities of leadership and accomplishment than he has ever felt before. He is proud of his ability to overcome the fear that would hinder his speech. Yes, Fred's talk is a success, and Fred's success can be your success. You can learn to master your fears about yourself. You can learn to control stage fright and make it work for you. Just remember how Fred prepared himself by convincing himself that people wanted him to speak, by preparing his speech and practicing it, by creating confidence in himself. Fred did it. You can do it.
Good night, Helen. Pete?
Funny thing, Mr. Ashley. Ran across $50 with 2 heads today.
You're kidding. Let's see it.
Well, I gave it to that new stockman. What's his name?
Oh, Ben Thompson?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Ben? What's this I hear about a coin with 2 heads?
Yeah, you want to see it?
Well, you'll never have to pay for coffee again.
Well, that's something.
Oh, Ben, I've been a little pressed for time. I've meant to ask you how things are going.
Well, I don't know.
Was something wrong?
I don't know, Mr. Ashley. I don't know if this job adds up for me or not.
Oh? Don't you like the job, Ben?
Job's okay. I guess it's me. I don't seem to catch on to what I'm supposed to do.
Oh, well, give yourself a little time. You've only been here for a month.
6 weeks.
Well, 6 weeks, that's not enough time to get the hang of things. You stick with it. You may be bagging groceries today, but look to the future.
Future, Mr. Ashley? I'm not sure this job has a present for me. Well, I may be cut out for something else. I just don't know.
Well, you're learning the job, Ben. Peterson's supermarket is a growing outfit. You got a chance to grow along with it. Good night, Smitty.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Peterson was saying something like that.
Well, we'll talk about it sometime tomorrow. I'm sure we can work something out.
If you say so.
If I say so. You know, I'll bet that son of a gun quits on me. What's the matter? Don't people want to work anymore?
Shouldn't the nightlight be on?
That's the third time that's happened this week. That's all right. Maybe I'll get it.
Night.
Good night. Looks like I'm going to have to run another help wanted ad. What do they want, a country club? Gee, what a business. Ben Thompson?
Thanks, Ralph.
I don't understand. I said that we'd talk tomorrow.
For you, my friend, this is tomorrow.
Well, I don't know what's going on here. But let's get one thing straight. This is not Peterson's supermarket. And you are not Ben Thompson. You're a jar of piccalilli that conked me on the head or something.
If you say so.
Now, I'll go along with this gag just for kicks, but if I find out that things are not panning out, I'm bailing out. You got me?
Gotcha. Now to business.
What business?
Yours. I'm quitting Peterson's. You need a new stockman. What you going to do about it?
I'm going to run an ad.
Don't bother. Waste of time, waste of money.
What do you mean?
Well, I told you that I might be cut out for something else, didn't I? I tossed a coin after I left last night. Decided to go into business for myself.
That coin has two heads.
I know. I don't believe in gambling when my future's at stake. I opened up a career consultant service for supermarket personnel.
You've done what?
You might call it a super service for supermarkets.
This is a dream, and I can wake up any time I want to.
You see, every good potential supermarket employee in town wants to do the best he can. So, he comes to me, Ben Thompson, the one man who's had a little experience in the field.
6 weeks? You call that experience?
6 weeks at Peterson's is a rare experience, believe me. The kind of experience that's given me well, you might say, a corner on the market. Now, I call the toss for everybody.
That's impossible.
True. But then, I'm not Ben Thompson. I'm a jar of piccalilli. In my world, when you want a good man, all you gotta do is come to me.
Yeah? What's it gonna cost me?
Not a thing if you have the right program to offer. If not, well, what price tag do you put on lost personnel?
All right. We'll play it your way. How do I know that the man you send me will qualify?
Well, the question isn't whether he qualifies to work for you, but whether you qualify to employ him.
I don't get it.
Well, I know old man Peterson made you responsible for hiring and training, right?
Well, in the grocery department,
So
yes.
you want to find good people for the job, right?
Well, that's right.
So, okay. I'm responsible as agent to find good places for my clients to work. And, under the circumstances, you're the one who's got to measure up. Well, you see, my friend, we're talking about a coin with two heads. Your attitude kind of depends on which one you're looking at.
Yeah, but look...
No.
Man.
You look, Ralph.
That's you.
Yep, that's me. When I first started in at the store. Take a good look, Ralph. What do you see?
Well, young man stamping prices.
Well, you should see a lot more, Ralph. You should see a young man not so different from a lot of others, who lettered on the high school track team, tinkered with hot rods, pumped gas for a while, has a girl he's kind of serious about. A young man who wants to learn the ropes, show what he can do, live up to the potential he's got inside him.
That's what I see?
Well, that's what you should see. Now, take a good look at yourself, Ralph. You're looking at a man who's done pretty well for himself. A man who was picked by Mr. Peterson to run the grocery department because he has the potential to go up the ladder and to take on added responsibilities. Now, one of these new responsibilities is training his people. Now, he has the job know-how, and in order to pass that know-how along, he should have a fair measure of tact, patience, alertness, thoroughness, and maybe even a sense of humor.
What do you want me to do, make a funny?
Nope. I want you to tell me what this man should do for this one.
Well, get him into the swing of things as soon as possible, I suppose.
True, but why?
Reduce personnel costs by cutting down on lost time.
Get your nose out of that mirror, Ralph. You should be looking at this man. He wants to make the team, and you can coach him so he does, soon. That way he's happy. You're happy. The boss is happy.
The boss?
Why wouldn't he be? The new employee is competent and confident, and you have more free time to devote elsewhere.
All right. I'll buy this. What are you driving at?
Well, supposing you come to the Ben Thompson Agency for a new stockman. Now, you're about to train him. Is there anything special you should teach him?
Oh, no. He'll catch on. Mostly by himself.
Do you let a sale catch on by itself? Or do you do something positive to promote it?
Oh, well, a stockman's job is such a simple one.
Well, to you, maybe. But to a new fellow just starting out, it's like his first day at a brand new high school. He doesn't know up from down, much less where his locker or the drinking fountain is. Now, it won't be simple for him if you bollocks up your job. But if you train him right, it will be simple. Come with me.
Where are we going?
A little side trip through your subconscious.
Why mine?
Well, after all, this is your dream.
place is a mess. What's all this junk lying around?
Dream rubble mostly. Doubts, fears, debris left over from unanswered questions. You know, when I first set foot in Peterson's, I had a lot of questions that had to be swept out of my mind before I was ready to concentrate on my job.
Questions? Like what?
Like, when do I report? Who's my boss? When do the breaks come? When's my day off? What do you expect from me?
Well, Mr. Peterson took that up with you, didn't he?
Yep. Said a few other things I remember, too. Seems more like 6 months ago than 6 weeks.
You have any other questions, Ben?
No, sir, not right now.
Ben, we're going to train you in the grocery department. It's the backbone of the business. So you'll be in a position to learn the fundamentals that'll be most helpful to you in the future. And there will be a future here at Peterson's. The grocery business is the biggest single business in the country, Ben. It's 5 times bigger now than it was when I was your age, just starting out like you. And it's going to continue to grow. As a matter of fact, we're not too far away from opening up another store. Peterson's supermarket is going places. And all of us here, if we pitch in and do our jobs right, are going places with it. Ben, you've picked a great business. One filled with opportunities. Let me congratulate you for showing sound judgment in joining our team. You won't regret it. Now, I want to take you over and introduce you to Ralph Ashley. He's the grocery department manager. He'll start you out slowly and teach you what to do and how to do it. But if there's anything I can do to help you, just speak up.
I think he did a pretty fair job of orientation with you.
When he led me over to you, I was as eager as a cat in birdland.
What happened to change your attitude? Now that you've had a chance to meet some of the gang, we can get down to work. There's not much to the job, Ben. You just check in the merchandise, open up the cases and cartons, mark the prices on the merchandise, and stock the shelves. When you're not doing that, you help the checkers out by bagging the groceries and carrying them out to the customers' cars. Meanwhile, you build merchandise displays. There's nothing to it, really. Any questions? Ah, that's good. Stamps all set. You price mark the tops of these cans and stick them on the shelves the way I showed you. I'll check back a little later on to see how you're doing.
If words were yards, you just did the 100-yard dash in 9 flat.
All right, I suppose I should have spelled it out a bit more for you, but I had somewhere else to be. Remember, I'm kind of new at my job as grocery department manager, too.
No, that wasn't your real problem.
No? Well, then what was?
You didn't prepare yourself.
What do you mean?
You didn't set up a schedule. You didn't review the training material you already have. You didn't pick the right time and place. You didn't devote enough time and attention to me. You didn't give me a chance, and you didn't give yourself one. Ralph, these jobs are second nature to you. You forget that you once had to learn them bit by bit. You have to teach a new man just as if he had never seen a can of beans before.
Other guys get beautiful girls in their dreams. I get a lecture.
Look, this business of training a guy for a job takes just as much skill as doing the actual job.
Okay. Show me.
Sure. Let's break the job down for a new stockman. Now, what are all the things you told me I had to do and no world records, huh?
Receive merchandise.
Routine dream stuff. Go on, receive merchandise. Then what?
Check in merchandise. Open cases and cartons. Mark prices. Stock shelves. Bag groceries, carry out. And build merchandise displays. Well, that's about the size of it, at Peterson's anyway.
Now, we have to break down each job into its elements. For instance, building a display. First, we have to pick a location, bring out the merchandise, build a base.
I know all that.
Yeah, but the new man doesn't. He has to concentrate on how to do the job.
Now, what do I have to concentrate on?
The knowledge, skills, and attitudes the employee needs to develop in order to do the job.
You make it seem awfully complicated, Ben. What's so mysterious about this training business?
Nothing. Knowledge is nothing more than the whats. Skills, the hows. And attitudes, the whys. Wherever you take the time to fill a guy in on all three, there is no mystery.
All right. What are the whats?
All right, what's a number 303? What's an end aisle? What's a gondola? What's rotate mean? What's a warehouse survey? What's a contract display? What's a scratch?
Well, what are they?
I don't know. You never got around to telling me. Now we get to the hows. The new hire's got a lot of questions clouding his mind that you have to answer carefully and completely. How is the case opened? How is the merchandise price marked? How is it put up on the shelf? How are displays built? How are groceries bagged?
But you can't throw all that at a new man at one time.
Of course not. You give it to him in bite-sized chunks when he needs it. And as you do, you have to explain why some of the things he does are so important. Why we change displays so often. Why we bag groceries so carefully. Why we carry them out. Why we're friendly to customers. This automatically answers the two biggest whys of all.
The two biggest whys?
Why Peterson's is a good place for customers to shop, and why Peterson's is a good place to work. Remember this, when a man learns at a steady pace and knows why he's doing what he's doing, he knows where he's going. He's got confidence for today and ambitions for tomorrow.
All right. That's the why of training. Now tell me how.
Simple. You follow a 4-step training cycle that makes it easy for you to do your job right and easy for the new man to do his job right.
4 steps?
Yes. Step 1. Explain the what, how, and why of the job. Step 2. Demonstrate. Explaining the how again and showing him how to do it. Step 3. Try out. Let him do the same steps and watch how he does them. Step 4. Correct. Check for weaknesses, answer questions, and run through the cycle again if necessary. Repeat it as many times as you have to. It works. A lot of people use it.
Why go through a routine like that with such a simple thing as training?
Because, my friend, it's the simple things we tend to slight.
Come on now. Without going through all that rigmarole, let's get out of this place and I'll show you how to, stock shelves, for instance.
All right. How to stock shelves, for instance, it is. Come on. Here we are. Cartons open. Cans price marked. Let's take it from there. What do I do?
Oh, it's simple. You just step back and watch me. How's that?
Ralph, did you ever think of trying out for the Olympics?
Well, there's nothing to it, really, once you get the hang of it.
That's it.
Yep.
Nothing else.
Nope.
You're sure?
Well, I explain about rotating the stock, checking for dust on top of the stock, all that sort of thing, I guess.
Well, why not take the guesswork out of it? Let's tackle something else. You see, you have to follow a procedure you can bank on to do the job. Explain.
Yeah, I know. Demonstrate, try out, correct.
Okay, who's going to be the trainer? Who's going to be the trainee?
Well, I'll toss you for it. Heads, I'm the new stockman. Tails, you are. Heads, I'm the new stockman. You show me.
Okay. By the numbers. Ready?
Yeah, sure.
1, explain. First of all, you take out a bag, open it, and place it on the counter.
Well, I figured that much.
And make sure you have the right size bag. For some reason, our customers don't like a 60-pound bag that's half empty, or a 20-pound bag that has a carton of eggs doing a balancing act on top. Then you set aside the wets from the dries, the fragiles and soft things from the jars and cans. Then you put them into the bag. First, you build a solid foundation with cans and jars. Fill out those corners. Don't cram the bag until it bulges. Keep a square bag. And look out for sharp corners and edges. They can tear through. Now, this bag holds a lot of weight, but not when it's wet. So, put frozen, wet, or damp things in separate bags. Put ice cream in insulated bags so it won't go soupy. Then put fragiles on top so they don't get squashed. Are you with me so far?
Yep.
Okay. 2, demonstrate. All right, we've got the right size bag out and open. Now, separate the groceries. Fragiles, dries, setting aside rebag items, jars and cans. Bag the groceries. First, a solid foundation with cans and jars. Fill out the corners. Nice square bag. Now, watch for corners and edges. A separate bag for frozen and for wets, of course. And an insulated bag for ice cream. Fragiles on top. Hand the bag to the customer. Don't push it at her. Be pleasant, helpful, and friendly. Say thank you. You're the last contact she has with the store, and we want her back. Oh, and if it's heavy, help her carry it out to the car. And oh, don't pack too much weight in one bag. A 110-pound woman might have a little trouble lifting half her own weight out of the car. Divide the weight evenly if you use more than one bag. Now then.
Well...
Now, what have I shown you so far?
Well, I guess the what, how, and why of the job.
Okay. Now we're ready for 3, tryout.
Frozens, wets, dries, fragiles, cans, glass. Solid foundation. Fill corners. Square the bag.
are you doing?
I'm giving you a chance to correct me.
Customers don't like their pumpernickel with an hourglass figure. Be sure you don't leave something out like shoestrings or ice cream you set aside, stuff like that.
For want of a shoestring, a customer was lost?
It's happened.
There you are. And, thank you, ma'am.
Not bad.
Now do you turn me loose?
Well, if I thought you had it down pat. Or I may try to smooth it out a bit more. In any case, I'd be around to answer any questions that may come up. Check for weaknesses. Run through it again if I thought I had to.
Tell me this, Ben. We agreed that this is a better way to do it than I've done in the past. I buy your points. Explain, demonstrate, try out, correct. So I do it, by the numbers. Now the new man has the know-how. There's only one problem.
What's that?
This is just one of dozens of jobs. When in howling Hades am I going to get enough time to go through all of these steps for each of them? I've got more work than I can do now.
But that doesn't get you off the hook. It's still your responsibility. And you know something? It doesn't take much longer to do it right than to do it wrong. And it saves time in the long run because you won't have a lot of bad habits to overcome later.
I wonder if your cycle works for every job.
Building a display suit you?
Sure.
Okay, I'll be the new stockman this time.
First, make sure you build it so it isn't apt to topple. This starts with a good, firm base, using cartons of goods or risers. Notice how I...
There.
Huh. Darn good job, Ben. Remember to give them a reason for buying. And leave a couple of holes in it. A lot of customers are afraid to spoil a perfect display. We want them to help themselves.
Nothing to it, really. Once you get the hang of it.
When you're given the hang of it.
Well, you've trained me right. And as a new boy, I like that. Want to know why?
Okay, shoot.
Because, my friend, someday I want your job. And I'm going to get it, too.
Well, what about me?
You'll be ready to take over the new store, partly because you're able to make guys like me more productive.
Well, I never thought of it that way, Ben. You've taught me something, and I want to thank you. I'll see you around the next time I get a knock on the noggin.
Hey, aren't you forgetting something?
Well, what do you mean?
Well, look, I'm still this new stockman, and I've got another question still kicking around in my skull. Is this the only kind of training I get? What about the store manager sale coming up? Are you going to cover that with each employee one at a time?
Well, we might do some on-the-job training, but we generally get all the guys together for group training on things that concern all of them.
2 kinds of training, then?
Oh, 3. We get a certain amount of written and printed stuff.
You mean like this?
Yes. Instructions, safety regulations, bulletins from the warehouse, brochures. A lot of good stuff. Through these 3 types of training, you'll soon get on top of your job. And we'll expect more from you later at Peterson's. Your future is what you make of it. And we'll do everything we can to help you make the most of it.
I think you've got the idea.
Well, Ben, I hope I've convinced you that Peterson's is a good place to work.
Well, after what you've just shown me, I just might decide not to leave you after all.
You might.
Don't call me. I'll call you.
Well, make up your mind, Ben. If you're serious about sticking with us here...
Mr. Ashley? Mr. Ashley, are you okay?
Ben, I want to run through that cycle again.
The cycle, sir?
Yeah, I want to make sure you can build a good, solid display.
But I didn't build that display, sir.
You didn't?
No, sir. You did yesterday.
Yesterday?
Maybe I'd better turn on a light.
Ben? Ben Thompson?
Yeah, Mr. Ashley?
Are you the real Ben Thompson?
I think so. I was standing by the front door, and I hear this atom bomb go off, and I come in here, and... Man, you sure did a complete job on this display.
Ben, do you still have that two-headed coin?
Yeah. You want it?
I'd like to buy it from you.
Take it. Mary gave it to me. I'll give it to you.
Oh, thank you. I want to keep this to remind me of something. While I'm at it, Ben, I want you to know something.
What, Mr. Ashley?
I want you to know that I know exactly how you felt when you left the store tonight.
Yeah?
And I'm pretty sure I know why.
Yeah?
And we're going to do something about it starting first thing in the morning. I wanted you to know that. Oh, and Ben?
Yeah?
If you do leave us, do me a favor. Don't go into the employment agency business, okay?
Sure, Mr. Ashley. If you say so.
Since long before Grandfather's Day, the farm's and most complex enterprise in the world, that of converting feedstuffs for farm animals into food for the world's growing such feeds, he looks to nutrition experts who operate practical research facilities like those maintained by Worthmore Feed. Here, continual progress is being made toward giving the farm operator the greatest return for his feed dollar. Here also, the answer to the age-old riddle, which comes first, the chicken or the egg, is well known. It is the egg. Thousands of eggs are hatched each month under controlled conditions as part of Worthmore's research program to improve breeder performance. The chicks and turkey poults hatched here are used in feeding studies. Such studies provide nutrition scientists with the information they need to formulate more efficient and economical poultry feeds. In one feeding study, for instance, a control group of birds may be given all they will eat of a particular ration, and their body weights, feed consumption, and egg production will be compared with those of similar groups fed the identical ration in carefully controlled amounts. Various nutritional requirements, as well as the effect of drugs, antibiotics, and growth stimulants, may also be determined through feeding tests. Nutrition workers must also study the effects of new feeding formulas on the dressed appearance and even the flavor of poultry products. Of major importance in egg quality is the effect of breeding, feeding, and management on egg size, shell texture, and yolk color. For it is on these characteristics that the housewife should judge the quality of the eggs she buys. Years of careful research have shown that birds raised for different purposes require specialized feed. Layers, breeders, broilers, light birds, heavy birds, each must be fed according to their particular needs. Whether the flock is fed in confinement or on range also affects its feeding requirements. Worthmore research extends beyond the nutrition field and includes studies of various management practices, even to investigating the effect of various lighting programs on flock production and whether slat floors are practical for increasing the number of birds housed per unit of floor space and per dollar invested. Turkeys, too, require specialized feeds and feeding programs. Research studies on a practical, down-to-earth basis show that turkeys, pigs, and other animals yield better when raised under proven feeding and management methods. These pigs are being raised under practical farm conditions. They are contributing answers to questions asked by Worthmore researchers about proper swine feeding and management. Similar questions are currently being asked about the feeding of mink and rabbits raised on the Worthmore Research Farm. The health of his birds is of vital concern to the profit-conscious poultryman. In recent years, the feed and pharmaceutical industries have developed new and effective ways of improving and maintaining poultry health. Here, on the Worthmore Research Farm, various additives are used in experimental rations and studied for their value to commercial poultrymen. Many more experimental feeds than ever reach the research farm are first tested on a smaller scale here in the world's most advanced feed research laboratory. Nothing is left to chance. New feeds or formula changes are tested chemically, physically, and biologically, using actual birds housed and cared for under carefully controlled conditions of temperature and humidity. Further, more extensive to meet the guarantees shown on identifying tags, Worthmore maintains a staff of trained, nor does their interest end there. Working closely with agricultural colleges, Worthmore applies the results of their research in dairy and livestock feeding and management and strives constantly to develop sound feeding systems to supplement the dairyman's own forage program. The influence of research extends even to the manufacturing plants where ingredients must be accurately mixed and samples of ingredients and finished feeds forwarded to the laboratory for analysis. Every bag or bulk shipment of Worthmore feeds is unique in that it carries an identifying number on each tag. This number tells Worthmore's quality control detectives the plant at which a given feed was manufactured and even the date and time of day it was mixed. Thus, whether delivered in bags or in bulk, the poultryman, dairyman, or livestock producer can be sure of getting fresh, uniform, dependable feeds at all times. Worthmore research makes this possible. Much of Worthmore's research effort is devoted to furnishing up-to-date information to field representatives, enabling them to make accurate, reliable feeding and management recommendations to the farmers they call upon. Today, this man, and thousands like him, looks to research to make farm life more enjoyable and rewarding. At the same time, he expects to produce farm products at lower cost and give the housewife more nutritious and delicious food for her shopping dollar. Beef and pork, turkey and chicken, eggs and milk, foods rich in proteins, minerals, and vitamins for strong, healthy bodies and alert minds of our children, our armed forces, scientists, factory workers and office workers, you and me, assuring our children of wholesome foods with which our farms have abundantly supplied us, the best-fed nation on earth. Worthmore Research will continue to play a role of ever-increasing importance in achieving these goals by reducing production costs through greater feed efficiency. American farmers are faced with the challenge of producing food for a population expected to reach 230 million by 1975, or about a third more people than we have today. American agriculture is prepared to meet that challenge through larger farm units and scientific breeding and feeding in this, the dawn of a new day in agriculture.
Where are you going, my pretty maid? I'm off to the World's Fair, sir, she said. Our fair maid can hardly wait to bring the folk rhyme up to date. She goes by helicopter. Seatbelt fastened and lipstick checked, Manhattan model Olita Pettis is ready to make the most of a short but sensational New York Airways chopper hop from Wall Street canyons to the site of the 1964 New York World's Fair in Flushing Meadow Park. Lady Liberty waves hello, and the fabled towers of Manhattan pass in review beside the East River. Olita's fairbound for an exclusive preview showing of tomorrow's handsomest hairstyles and highest couture under the aegis of the National Hairdressers and Cosmetologists Association, the national professional society representing over 75,000 cosmetologists and beauty salons in all of the 50 states. NHCA has created an exciting collection of new hair fashions, a leap year coiffure collection to be previewed today at the site of the New York World's Fair. Superb hairstyling and soft professional permanent waving will bring these new coiffures within the reach of every woman. And they'll be presented today with a brilliant assembly of spring and summer silk dresses. So it's hi-ho helicopter to the fair. And indeed, though all bridges, roads, trains, and subways lead to the World's Fair this year, surely the whirlybird's eye view is the most dramatic introduction to the world's biggest city, busiest harbor, and newest fairgrounds. The Unisphere, U.S. Steel's gleaming symbol of the fair's theme, man's achievements in an expanding universe and his desire for peace through understanding. And on this site, nearly 70 nations, more than 30 states have come together to celebrate the myriad accomplishments and aspirations of modern men and women. The fair, which will draw millions to New York over 1964 and 65, is an architect's dreamscape of pleasure palaces and floating pavilions, mirror lakes and fabulous fountains. Even at this preview stage, many dramatic structures are easily recognized from the air. Eastman Kodak Pavilion, with its tower 8 stories tall, will be a shutterbug's paradise. General Electric's Progress Land will project the story of man's electrical achievements in an atomic age setting, and every woman will be fascinated by the all-electric community of tomorrow. IBM's unique Saarinen design structure is dominated by the ovoid-shaped information machine, where IBM promises to make the computer clear to all. And the nearby Clairol color carousel will use computers to furnish her own personal hair color formula to every lady visitor. Clairol Hair Coloring has joined hands with NHCA to show us how Milady's new hair fashions will reflect the free and futuristic spirit of the 1964 fair. And now our whirlybird ends its 5-minute flight from Manhattan atop the Port Authority heliport that also houses the top of the fair restaurant, where the fine art of hairdressing will soon be on display. A lovely landing for lovely models in striking new coiffures and costumes collected by International Silk. Among them, beige blonde Marilyn Rawlings, beautiful Ellie Evers, pearl blonde Carol Huffman, and lovely Mary Frank are first off. And first to the mirrors. Mary's NHCA romance coiffure is a perfect complement to a cherry red silk print, and it's silk all the way. Ellie on the left in pink paisley by Melba Hobson for Mr. Gee. Carol in blue and yellow by Jerry Silverman. Marilyn's two-piece orange and green silk dress is by Harvey Barron. Carol displays the news-making NHCA Young Natural coiffure, combed out for luncheon time casualness. Still slightly behind schedule, Olita shows, or blows, the daytime version of the romance coiffure. Next, lunch on top of the fair. Susie Smith leads the way in a green silk sheath by Jeffrey Bean. Bernice Houck, wearing a Montesano Pruzan burnt orange and chocolate silk organza dress, points out the sights. Her once mousy hair is rich flame, and her new style is the imp, most becoming. The NHCA ruffle is Susie's selection, and Valma Valley in red is the vamp. Ash blonde Olita shows the light colors and naturalness in hair and fashion, heralding the return to the woman this season. Her yellow silk linen dress by Hannah Troy. After luncheon, members of the NHCA Official Hair Fashion Committee recomb and dramatize hairstyles under the watchful eye of Styles Director Buddy Walton. These shapely new coiffures have been created in consultation with America's fashion authorities, and they're certain trendsetters in a season dedicated to emphasis on the softly feminine. High above the fair, the cocktail showing begins on the runway. Ellie is elegant in a Larry Aldrich late afternoon aqua silk chiffon that features a fluttering ruffled top over a bias cut skirt. Hair topaz blonde in the Marlene coiffure echoes the lovely young Marlena Dietrich of the 30s, brought up to date by soft curls and superb hair shaping. Olita in a jewel-toned two-piece ensemble by Samuel Winston. The red, blue, and gold silk print lights up the late afternoon. Ash blonde hair softly frames the face in the new romance coiffure, featuring a short center part from which soft waves move smoothly around the head for important back interest. Marilyn in the round-the-clock Herbert Sondheim dress of cherry silk, featuring this year's Blouson waistline. Coiffure, NHCA's Young Natural style. A long, low side part rising into a soft wave which tips gracefully over the temple. Hair color so complementary to hairstyle. Edward Abbott's apricot dancing dress, floating grace of silk chiffon. The mischievous M coiffure, a striking off-center part, lending impetus to softly draped waves which open appealingly over the left eye. Valma's dark hair, highlighted by sparkling brown coloring in the vamp coiffure, crowns a Donald Brooks for Townley emerald green and purple pink silk sheath. A come-hither curl adds height to an elegant silhouette. Jeffrey Bean's vivid hand-printed kimono coat over green sheath complements the warm tones of Susie's chestnut hair. Hairstyle and clothing style are dramatically in tune. The ruffle, a small coiffure with a gentle chiffon-like quality, a soft crest of waves, and a dramatic lift, eyes emphasized by slightly waved bangs. Following cocktail fashions for all, cocktails for three, and a closer look at two of the new hairstyles created for the enhancement of American beauty. Sparkling earrings set off Ellie's flaxen blonde Marlene look, in contrast to Bernice's glowing red-haired version of the imp. Evening, luminescence of candles, woman at her most alluring. A rippling silk dinner gown by Estevis. Ultra-feminine ruffles contrast with the clean, distinguished dress line. Pink silk giving a glow to the evening. The Marlene coiffure adapted for nighttime. Beguiling curls echo the ruffles of the dress while haloing the face. An imaginative adaptation of the daytime hairstyle. Now, the candlelit version of the imp. Follow the line of the unusual parting to the carefree fluff of soft waves rising at the crown, from mischievous to magic. The palette of Monet could have inspired the shimmering pale shades of this Philip Ulitar original silk chiffon creation. fashion editors look properly impressed as Susie strikes a Latinesque note in a silk metallissé ball gown by Gauthier with matching satin stole. Hair, once dull brown, now warm, rich chestnut in the evening ruffle coiffure. A pink rose completes the Spanish illusion. Dramatic is the word for Trigere's slipper-length gown in emerald green and white. Equally dramatic, the evening version of the vamp, which is further emphasized by a chignon. Softly impressionistic silks and complementary hairstyles are the story for spring and summer of this World's Fair year. A gold two-piece dinner gown by Ben Reig, modeled Paris mannequin style by Mary. Understated distinction in a bias cut top accented by a sparkling white beaded belt. Her hair, glowing sherry in the romance coiffure. Again, a chignon gives emphasis to skillfully cut and waved hair, moving softly from around the face to back of head. As throughout the collection, frilly softness characterizes this aqua and green silk chiffon ball gown by Bob Bernard for Sam Friedlander, with its bias cut skirt and crisscross effect at the top. Back combing and a jewel glamorize the after-dark version of the young, natural look. In hand-screened colors on white silk, a slender, sleeveless gown by Nat Kaplan with a high-rise waistline and matching stole. Carol enhances the dominant tones with a green bracelet and a yellow hair bow in her young, natural coiffure. The look of cool, blonde lightness is a favorite this year. A deceptively simple pink ball gown by Gustave Tassel, stunning in its understatement. There's understatement, too, in the romance coiffure, a short center part topped by an asymmetrical wave tuft, a crown for evening. The romantic look made possible by the support of custom cut and professional permanent waving. A dramatic climax to these winning styles, bringing us to another winner. The agenda also includes an exciting, new, and forward-looking musical event. The Dave Brubeck Quartet, in the premiere performance of a Brubeck composition entitled The World's Fair. The world is fair, and some of the world's fairest gather round to listen. a Dave Brubeck premiere, a preview of exciting new fashions in haute couture, in hairstyles, and of course, in World's Fair styles. These are among the free, swinging, and natural, romantic, and colorful sounds and sights of 1964. Seek, and you shall find them.